Hi, my name's Dr. Catherine Hughes from Crime Psych. I'm a criminal psychologist and I run a business that enables me to bring knowledge and learning to everyone, not just those who are at schools, colleges or universities. And I do this by producing a range of blogs, vlogs and free online courses. But I do also run some slightly more in-depth courses which are both available face-to-face and online. You don't need any previous qualifications to learn with me, and there are several subjects available. So once you finish watching this video, why not head over to my website and see if any of those would be of interest to you. Today's video has been brought forward after a really interesting comment on YouTube that I've seen. On one of the psychological analysis videos that I do, somebody wrote, "Psychologists have been saying the same thing for years and years, what's the point?" I thought that this was a brilliant comment and it raised a really valid point. Now, if I geek out on you during this, I apologise now, because I'm going to be talking about some of the aspects of criminal psychology that I find really exciting and interesting. For this, you could think of me as having two sides to my personality. Firstly, I was and still am a true crime fan. That's what led me to study the psychology of crime. I'm nosy, really nosy, and I wanted to know why people did the things that they did. Whenever I would watch a documentary about a particular offender, I wanted to be told what it was about them that made them offend when somebody else in the same circumstances didn't. Secondly, I learned that exploring big data sets and running tests on them to try and uncover a pattern of behaviour is really interesting. From the huge data set that I was given or that I've collected, I run a range of tests on it, and I'm the first person to know that a particular pattern or relationship exists. Because of the film The Silence of the Lambs, I wanted to be able to profile people and tell what was going on inside their heads. I watched Cracker, which is a UK series about a male profiler who could work out what the offenders thought and what they would probably do next. A culmination of all that led me to be sat in Professor David Cantor's office in Liverpool as a cheeky little first-year undergraduate telling him I wanted to be an intern. Throughout my learning journey, I discovered that profiling isn't done in the way that I thought it was. What I found was something much more exciting. As a starting point, you need to have a good understanding about the psychology of behaviour. You'll learn all about the various theories of behaviour and all of the different approaches. This leads you to have your own thoughts about which theories are stronger, which studies are better, and therefore how much more likely they are to be more accurate. Throughout that journey, you learn all about the research methods and statistics. Some of you might have the idea that psychology is all about people and not so much about numbers and maths. Some areas of psychology are, but the mainstream theories of psychology have test after test after test done on them to ensure that they're accurately predicting what we thought. There are many different areas within forensic, criminal and investigative psychology. Each area of research might require a slightly different approach to study or investigate further. However, when we want to study any aspect of offending behaviour, the basic fundamentals will always be the same. Every research project begins with a question or with a set of questions. There might even be some problem which requires a solution. Large research projects are undertaken which often take years to complete. The way a phenomenon is investigated is crucial for getting applicable results. You can look for patterns in police records. You could interview offenders at length on their experiences. We could give them questionnaires to fill in or even compare offender or non-offenders. Once we have the background evidence of existing theories and the data that we have, in whatever form that we've decided to collect it, complex statistical methods are applied to rigorously test these patterns or these relationships. The results from these studies are then written in the form of a journal article, which is carefully examined by other experts in the field. Usually, Other researchers in different areas try to replicate your findings with different populations. These are also published as journal articles. And that's how psychological theories of offending are developed. I'll give you an example of how this works in a real-life situation. A psychological theory starts with a question or some kind of problem that needs a solution. Researchers would then look at what evidence exists relating to that question. As our understanding of psychology has grown, researchers often investigate several previous explanations for the phenomenon or behaviours that we're looking at and combine them. Existing research doesn't always need to be directly related to offending. We could take various aspects of everyday psychology and build upon them in a way that relates to offending behaviour. Within investigative psychology, theories can be taken from clinical psychology, social psychology, criminology, sociology, the psychology of place or how we interact with our surroundings, or even neuropsychology and the study of brain damage. If we were given access to a large data set from a police force, it would contain thousands and thousands of pieces of information from thousands of people. We'd need to tidy that data set up by removing any duplicate entries. We would then code various variables, making sure that there are no missing data points. And we then run descriptive statistics on the data, so we get an overview of the type of information that we have and the attributes of those who carried out each crime type. We might have set out wanting to know about whether arsonists or murderers travelled the same distance to offend or different. So I would look at and code each offence. Say I would code murder as 1 and arson as 2. I would then run descriptive statistics to get an idea of who commits each type of crime. This might show that arsonists are generally older than murderers. If we wanted to prove that this was the case, we could then do something called a t-test, which tests whether the age of one group is statistically different from another. We could code the distance that each of the offenders travelled from their home to the offence, but we'd need to record the same values. It wouldn't work if one of them were recorded in kilometres and the other in miles an hour. Similarly, if we measured one using the shortest distance possible in crow's flight, which means not taking into consideration any of the roads or routes, and the other one was measured in route distance by foot, then we couldn't compare the two distances. We would work out the average distance for each, and then we'd run a t-test to see if they were significantly different and be able to say with confidence, murderers travel further than arsonists. So when I do a psychological analysis video on one particular offender, I draw facts from the research that applies to the case. These analysis videos don't tell psychologists anything new, but we know that the general population has an interest in knowing how and why some people committed the offence or series of offences. When I do a psychological analysis of an offender, most people wouldn't find it at all interesting to watch me work with big data sets, run statistics and interpret results and so on. One of the recent psychological analysis videos that I did was on Chris Watts. He strangled his wife and his daughters aged 3 and 5. As part of that analysis, I said that he came under the description of family annihilators and could be described as a subcategory called a self-righteous killer. Although that is fairly rare, men have been known to kill their spouse or partner and all of their children. Professor David Wilson did an in-depth study of all known family annihilators as far back in history as records allowed. From those cases, the known behaviours, reasons, preceding events and family circumstances were all identified. These would have been subjected to a range of tests for reliability, with different researchers also identifying the same things. Something called a correlation analysis might be used to test if two variables were related to each other. All of this would be conducted by professionals in the field. So my one line of "he was a family annihilator who comes into the subcategory of a self-righteous killer" stems from months and months of work carried out by researchers who've published their results. These publications have been checked by other experts in their field and agreed with their findings. So thank you, Neil McGilligan, for raising this really important point and being the inspiration for today's video. I do hope that you got to see this in-depth answer to your question. I hope that you have all found this interesting and that, more importantly, you've learned something new from it. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.